Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Prishubhanu Sudadevi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakapa Dhruvyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patiranam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Pranityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaura Bhaktivinoda Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita, the spiritual masters, Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Dvaita Chandra, Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Dvaita Chandra, Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Chapter 1, The Spiritual Masters, Text number 2. Bande Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityanando Sahodito Gododaye Pushpanvanto Chitro Dan Sto Tamo Nudao Bande Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Sahodito Gododaye Pushpanvanto Chitro Sando Tamo Nudo. Chaitanya Samohito But ladies, Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nanda Sanohito Udaye Pushpanvanto Vidito Gododaye Pushpanvanto Chitro Sanda Tamohito Bande. I offer my respectful obeisances. Shri Krishna Chaitanya, to Lord Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Nityananda, and to Lord Nityananda, Saha Udito, simultaneously arisen. Gauda Udaye, on the eastern horizon of Gauda, Pushpanvanto, the sun and moon together. Chitrao, wonderful. Shamdao, bestowing benediction. Tama Nudao, dissipating darkness. Translation: I offer my respectful obeisances unto Shri Krishna Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, who are like the sun and moon. They have arisen simultaneously on the horizon of Gauda to dissipate the darkness of ignorance and thus wonderfully bestow benediction upon all. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutaya Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Vicharne Nirvishesha Srinivadi Paskatya De Siddharne. Everyone understands English? Yes. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Naham prakasha sarvasha yogamaya samavrita mudo yam navijananti loko yam ajam avyayam. That I'm never manifested to the foolish and unintelligent, them I'm covered by my creative potency, yogamaya, and so the deluded world knows me not, I'm unborn and inexhaustible. So the question is, who is Krishna referring to when he says the mudhas? So anyone who identifies himself with the gross or the subtle body is said to be a mudha. Gokara. Yasyatma Bude Kunape Tritaduke Sudi Kalatradishu Boma Ijadi Yatirta Bude Sahale Nakarhichish Ganesh Abhageshu Saeva Gokara Yasyasti Yasyatma Bude. So anyone whose intelligence, Yasyatma Bude Kunape Tritaduke, is identified with this gross body and the subtle body, which is made out of kapha, pitta, and vata, or at least the energies make up these, create this body. Kalatra, yasyatma buddhe kunape tri taduke kali kalatradishu boma idradi, and who believes that the land of birth is actually worshipable, that they've taken birth in, is worshipable. Boma ijadi, yatirta bude saharle nakarhichish, and they go to the places of pilgrimage just to take a bath. They're on the level of the go, and kara, the cow and the ass. I can see it. In other words, if we're honest, we have to admit that we're in the Bali concept of life. Now, Bhagavad Gita has, as in the Srimad Bhagavatam, it has 3 different levels of spiritual consciousness. Vidanti tattva vidas tati gyajnam aviyam rameti paramatmeti bhagavan iti shabdyate. The beginning is Brahman, aham brahmasmi, I am not this body. And that is not sufficient to make any spiritual progress, because even demons like Ravana and Hiranyakashipu, they also understood that the living being is different from his body. After the death of Hiranyaksha, Hiranyakashipu preached to his relatives about the eternality of the soul. So that knowledge is not sufficient to make any progress in spiritual life. It is helpful to know what we're not, but it's more important to find out who we actually are. Just like some people may travel on the street in a car and someone else hits their car and they jump out of the car and they proclaim, "You've hit me." But the other person driving the other car says, "I didn't hit you, I hit your car." But the person insists that you hit me. So that's known as ahamkar. I am the car. But actually we're not the car. Ishvara sarvabhutanam hrideshe arjuna tishtati brahmanyan sarvabhutani yantra rudani maya. The Supreme Lord is directing the wanderings of all living entities who are sitting on a machine made of the material energy. So we have to understand, both by practical work and by theory, that I'm different from this body. And if I want to realize that, who I actually am, rather than just who I'm not, then Krishna says, Tam eva sharanam gacha, Sara Bhavena Bharata, that Tam Eva Sharanam Gacha, surrender unto him in all respects to Paramatma. Tam Eva Sharanam Gacha, Sara Bhavena Bharata, Tat Prasadam Param Shantim, Stanam Prapsati Shasvatam. And by his grace you can obtain eternal peace and the supreme abode. So Krishna has spoken the Bhagavad Gita 5,000 years ago. Unfortunately, very few people understood Bhagavad Gita and were willing to follow Krishna's directions, especially the direction Sarva Dharma Prachaja, Mamekam Sharanam Vraja, Ahang Tvang Sarapapebhyo, Mokshisyami Ma Suchaha. That direction of giving up different varieties of religion and surrendering unto Krishna and expecting Krishna to protect us from all sinful reactions and therefore giving up all worrying and fear is only possible when we're in line with Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra, and ultimately the super soul within our heart. That Shastra is the words of Krishna, and the same Krishna is in our heart. And we have a choice, either by remembering Shastra which Krishna gives us, and the example of Guru and Sadhu and their instructions, we can come in contact with the directions of Paramatma within the heart, and therefore come under the spiritual energy. Now in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that, generally speaking, people do not believe in Krishna, nor do they take shelter of Guru or Sadhu or Shastra. Instead, most people are misdirected by Trivida Narakasyedam Dwaram Nashtatam Atmanaha Kama Krodha Tata Lobhas Tasmad Etam Trayam Chajet. That there are three gates leading to hell, namely lust, anger, and greed. Every sane person should give these up because they lead to the degradation of the self. Etanyapi Tukarmani, Etaravi Kontiya, Tamo Dwaras Trivirara, Acharat Yamana Shrayas Tatoyati Param Gatim. That anyone who gives up these three gates leading to hell performs activities which are conducive to self-realization and thus gradually attains to the supreme destination. Yakshastra vidim utsrija, vartate kamakarata, Esasidim avapnoti nasukam naparam gitim. Yakshastra vidim utsrija. Anyone who gives up Shastra and Kama Karata. Yakshastra vidim utsrija, Karma Karata. Yakshastra vidim utsrija, Vartate Kama Karata, Esasidim avapnoti nasukam naparam gitim. And acts whimsically. So whimsically means according to Kam, Krodh, and Lobh. And that will lead to the moha, illusion, and in one part Krishna says the destruction of the loss of memory and the loss of intelligence, and therefore one acts according to the whim, the demands of the mind and the senses. The vacha vegam, manasakrodha vegam, jiva vegam, udrapasta vegam, etan vegam yovashahita dera, sarvam apimam prativim sashishat. So we have a choice. Either we follow Krishna, and following Krishna means ultimately to be aware of what Krishna wants us to do by being able to understand or hear from Paramatma, and in the conditioned stage through Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. Because Paramatma is also in the heart of Guru and Sadhu repeating Shastra according to their realization, and therefore they can help us understand what Krishna is telling us within the heart. Now, because people don't really accept Krishna, therefore Prabhupada writes at the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita, the introduction, that one lady requested him to recommend an edition in the Bhagavad Gita in English. But Prabhupada said, actually, there's no edition that I can recommend in English, either in India or in America, although there are hundreds of translations, because none of them touch on the spirit of the Bhagavad Gita. And the spirit of the Bhagavad Gita is that if we want to take a medicine, we have to take it according to the label on the bottle or according to the direction of an expert physician. We can't take it whimsically according to the direction of a friend who's not in knowledge. So in the material world, everyone is looking for ultimately, the supreme. Everyone is looking for the supreme what? Sat-Chit Ananda Vigraha. They're looking for the supreme happiness that lasts as long as possible. And in order to find it, they're hearing from so many people advertising. But in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says preliminarily one has to come to the stage of Krishna consciousness, abhayam sattva samushudira jnana yoga viryastiti. One has to come to the stage of fearlessness by realizing Brahman. One has to come to the stage of knowledge, yoga, abhayam sattva, yoga vyastiti. That is to actually be under the direction of Paramatma, under the direction of Shastra. And abhayam sattva samsudira, and to be situated in the transcendental bliss of Krishna consciousness, Satchitananda. Otherwise, one will be misled by the direction of the senses and the mind. So because people are not aware of Krishna, nor do they have faith in Shastra, nor do they have faith in those who are following Shastra, not complete faith. Therefore, Krishna speaks Bhagavad Gita 5,000 years ago, so that we can understand that He's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, unfortunately, we cannot see Krishna at the present time. The definition of God is that He has some Aishvaryasya samagrasya viryasya yashashastriyaha jnana vairagyas chainam shanam bhagahitinganaha. The definition of God is He has all opulence, all beauty, all fame, all strength, all renunciation, all wealth, and all knowledge. But we cannot perceive Krishna's beauty at the present time, nor His wealth, nor His strength, not directly. But what we can perceive directly is His knowledge. So for that reason, Krishna reveals Himself principally to Arjuna through the aspect of knowledge. Therefore, at the end of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that one who studies this conversation worships me by his intelligence. Adeshate chaya imam dharma samvidam avyam jnana vigayana tenaham ishtaksvam iti me mati. So Krishna is asking Arjuna if he's actually listened to this knowledge. Now, in the beginning, Krishna has told us something beyond what academic universities and the modern society tell us. Very simply, Denos minata dehe komoram yovanam jara tata dahantra praptir diryas tatra namuyati. He's telling us that our body's changing. Now, how many of us think our body's not changing? All of us know we have these bodies now. Some of us are older, some of us are younger. But the body that we have is always changing, whatever body we have. But we, the soul within the body, we're always the same. Therefore, this is science. Because it's true, 5 years ago, we were in a different body, and yet we're the same soul, the same person who's aware of this body. Now we're in this body, aware of it, and in 5 years from now, or 5 million years from now, we'll be in it existing, but this body will no longer exist. Therefore, this is real science. Then Krishna explains about Paramatma. Upadrasta namanta cha bharata bhakta maheshwara Paramatma iti chapyuto dehesmin purushapara. That there is another person with us. We're not alone. Krishna is always watching over us. And sarvasya chaham ridhi sanavishto matatsmitira jnanam aponam cha. Vedanta Krid Vedavid Eva Chaho. There is a person giving all living entities, not only human beings, remembrance. Unless we were giving remembrance, then we wouldn't remember even our own name. Or we wouldn't remember that this is called microphone. So many things were being supplied. If one takes some intoxication and loses their memory, then one will not remember who they are. So there's a person in ourselves who's giving us remembrance, knowledge. For instance, an ant looking for some sugar, looking for the Maha sweets here, has more intelligence than we do how to find the Maha sweet. Therefore, even in the heart of the ant, there's Paramatma directing him towards the sweets. One cannot deny the fact that there is another person directing us and directing the universe. As it says in the Brahma Samhita, or in the Bhagavad Gita, Gama Vishya Chabhutani, Daryamaham Ojasa, Pushnami Chostadi Sarva, Samobhutva Rasatnikaha. That I enter into the planets, and by their orbit, by my energy, they stay in their orbits. Or as Lord Brahma, the most intelligent person in the universe, says, Yakshaksha Esha Savitasa Kalagrahanam Rajasamasa Murti Shesha Teja Yasyagaya Brahmati Samrita Kalachakro Govindam Adi Purusham Tamahan Bhajami. The sun, which is so powerful that at every moment it's giving off more heat and light than all the human beings have utilized in terms of their entire history. It is said that the earth moved a little close, or the sun moved a little closer to the earth, then the whole earth would just burn up. If the sun moved a little further away from the earth, everything would be frozen. So the sun is exactly in an orbit, and it's moving exactly on time. Just like here in India, sometimes they strap a bull by its nose to a pole, and the bull pulls a heavy weight in order to grind, and it grinds and it smashes the grains as it walks around in a circle. So though the bull is so powerful, it's pulling a weight that 50 strong men would have to pull, still the bull cannot move 1 inch beyond the rope, beyond the pole. So similarly, the sun, although it's Ashesha Teja, full of infinite energy, it cannot move 1 inch beyond its orbit by the will of Govinda. Now the scientists, so-called scientists, they say that it's all by accident. But they cannot create such an accident. Let them create one little sun the size of a light bulb, and then it can circulate around this room for the whole year, as we can save so much on electricity and heat. But they can't even build a sun, create a sun the size of a light bulb, and yet they're claiming it's all by accident. So actually the scientists don't know very much. They claim that everyone came out of nothing. When's the last time you saw anyone come out of nothing? Do you see anything coming out of nothing? So if the scientists, if they actually believe what they were talking about, then why do they go to the university to get their degree, to get their PhD degree? Why don't they just stay in their room, and out of nothing the PhD degree will come? Why do they work so hard to get money? If everything came out of nothing, why does all the money that they want come out of nothing? So they don't believe their philosophy, because their philosophy means nothing. They say at the beginning there was nothing, and nothing was born. So Mother Nothing said try to become something. So Mr. Nothing tried for many millions and billions of years to become something, and finally he became a little bit of gas. And his Mother Nothing said, that stinks. Try to make yourself into something more than just some gas. So Son Nothing became angry and exploded and flew everywhere for billions of years, and finally Mother Nothing said, why don't you just settle down and try to become something? So here we are now. So according to this, if we look at our family album, we should turn the page and we see grandmother and father and mother on the page. The next page, there's grandmother and grandfather. He was a general in the army, and grandmother was a seamstress. We turn the page, and we turn the page. There's great-great-grandfather, great-great-grandmother. And finally, we turn the page, and there's one person, one animal hanging on a tree, full of hair, and then that's labeled Grandfather Harry, with a big smile on his face, and Grandmother Lucy. And we turn the page, and finally we find a sheep on the page. And it's a black sheep. And that's the black sheep in our family. And then we turn the page and there's great-great-grandfather Squeaky, who's a mouse. And then finally we turn the page and we get almost to the last page, and there's a rock. And there's a little caption that says, the most solid member of our family, great-grandfather Rock. And then we turn the page and there's nothing on the last page. Great-grandfather, the original grandfather of everyone, Mr. Nothing, who made himself into something. So we don't consider this science, we consider it science fiction. The fact is, Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchitananda Vigraha Anadir Adir Govinda Sarvakarna Karna. The fact is that when we see intelligence, we understand that there's an intelligent person behind the intelligence. Just like the scientists say, well, let's put it this way, if the scientists could create a machine where you put in grass in one end, and the other end you get milk, that would be a very good machine. You can just cut some grass, and then you can make globulins and kheer, and you can get nice yogurt. But can scientists make such a machine? You put grass in one end. Can the scientists make a machine that you put grass in one end of the machine, and on the other end of the machine you get milk? But there is a scientist who made such a machine. Do you know who that scientist is? Sarabi. Now, if the scientists could make a male machine and a female machine, and when they get together they make little machines, wouldn't that be good? You can get a male Rolls Royce and a female Rolls Royce, and you can put them together and get little Rolls Royces. That way everyone can get a Rolls Royce. You just give it some gasoline, some oil, and gradually it grows up to become a big Rolls Royce. But
so one came Rolls Royce, give a Rolls Royce, you put them in again, you give a small Rolls Royce,
Are you sure? But Krishna has made such a machine, and 8,400,000 species of life. And then when they get together, they make little machines. They grow up to become big machines. So who's the best scientist? Yeah, so the Dhammi Buddhi Yogam Tam. Some people can understand that because they're in harmony with Krishna's desires, and some people will deny it, that there's such a personality who's the supreme scientist in this universe, who's given us the science of Bhagavad Gita. Now Krishna is so kind because people are so fallen in this age. Abhajananti mamudha manushim tanum ashrityam param bhavam ajananto mama bhuta maheshwaram. Even Krishna personally comes and speaks Bhagavad Gita and explains about Brahman and Paramatma and Bhagavan in such a way that even a simple person can understand. But people have become such mudhas that they cannot understand the fact that they're not their body. What to speak of Paramatma guiding them, and what to speak of the ultimate goal to reach the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who has unlimited bliss, unlimited beauty, unlimited strength, unlimited knowledge, unlimited fame, unlimited renunciation, and unlimited strength. They cannot understand it all. And therefore, Mogaisha Moga Karamano, Moga Jnana Vicheta Saha, Rakshasim Asrim Chaiva, Prakriti Mohinim Shritaha. Therefore, their hopes, whatever they're doing, their hopes for liberation, their fruitive activities, and their culture of knowledge will all be defeated. In other words, people are manda sumanda matayo, manda bhagya upadrutaha. Even that we give them the gift of knowledge, they cannot appreciate it. Krishna's gift of knowledge. Therefore, Krishna, out of his compassion, comes and gives the same knowledge as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and the opportunity to obtain the same knowledge simply by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. That he's so merciful that he comes in this age, and even the mudhas, by hearing the holy name, they become from hippies to happies. Even one cannot understand spiritual knowledge at all, but simply by chanting Hare Krishna as it's received in this succession, then Mahatmanas tumam partha daivim prakritim ashritya bhajanya nanya manaso gyatva bhutadim avyayam satatam kirtiyanto mam yatantastra jadavritaha namasyantasvamam bhaktya niktukta upasate jnana jagnena tatchapyanye yajanta mam upasate ekakvena pritakvena bahura vishvato mukham. So, in order to help the fallen souls in this age, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Lord Nityananda have come, and they're distributing pure consciousness through the chanting of the holy name. And at the same time, showing us how to live in this material world in order to cultivate our original consciousness. Not difficult. Unfortunately, people have made everything very complicated, and therefore they believe they're making progress by industrialization and technology. Yes, they're making progress. They're making progress to the darkest regions of existence. Previously, people used to live simply, and at the same time, because they were not overwhelmed by anxiety over how to make money in order to get food, because anad bhavati bhutani parjana anasambhava. The most important necessity of life is to get food. Everyone is doing, in the material world, what everyone does is ultimately for survival, and the minimum survival is we have to eat. We have to eat food, we have to breathe air, we have to drink water. This is all food for the body. Otherwise, the body cannot exist. Now, modern civilization, through technology and industrialization, has made the process of getting food much more complicated. And they think that's progress, because they have no idea that progress is progress going back to the spiritual world, to realize that we're eternal, to realize pure consciousness, to see things properly. And what is that proper? According to Bhagavad Gita, things such as samam sarveshu bhuteshu tishtantam paramaishvaram vinashavanashantam yak pashyati sapashyati. One who can see the super soul along with the soul present in all bodies, and who understands that neither the soul nor the super soul within the destructible body is ever destroyed, he actually sees. Samam pashanhi sarvatra samavasti damishvaram nihenastyatmanatmanam tatoyati param gatim. One who can see the super soul equal in all bodies does not degrade himself by his mind unless he approaches the transcendental destination. But instead of hearing about the glories of Krishna, people are hearing about where is their money. Atyahara priyasascha prajalpa niyamagraha. Because people are simply absorbed in satisfying their senses, therefore atyahara priyasas. They're over-endeavoring to get the very basic necessities of life. And what's the reason? Prajalpa, because they're discussing all kinds of nonsensical things. And therefore niyamagraha. They don't follow the process of devotional service because they have no knowledge of reality. They have no knowledge of the benefit of Krishna consciousness. Why? Because they're too much involved in technology, too much involved in industrialization. They don't have time to hear. Previously, people used to have a cow and a bull, and they used to plow the land with a bull and get milk from the cow. The cow and bull would give dung for fertilizing and urine. But they decided that why should we spend so much time plowing the land? Instead, we can do it very much more conveniently with a tractor. And then we can eat the cow and bull. So that's what they've done. But to make the tractor, they certainly are eating the cow and bull, killing the cow and bull. But now in order to make a tractor, they need a factory. But to build a factory, they need raw materials. So they need machines to get the raw materials to build a factory to get the tractor. But to get the raw materials, they have to build a factory, and then they have to transport the materials in order to build the factory, to build the tractor, to get the machine, to build the tractor, to plow the land. And it goes on. So many cars, so many trucks, so many roads, so much energy has to be gotten out of the world, from the different ways, from the earth or from the wind, whatever. So much energy, and then so many armies have to be created because there's a lack of resources, and therefore one country has to get from another country their resources to maintain their standard of living so they can get something to eat. It's just like there was once a Brahmin, and all he had was one pair of underwear. Saintly Brahmin. He was always chanting Hare Krishna, always hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and he used to bathe in the Ganges. But one day he was bathing in the Ganges, and in order to dry his only possession, his kopins, he put his underwear on the bank of the river. But one mouse came along and stole his underwear. He was very embarrassed, but he begged another pair of underwear. But at night he would have nightmares of mice coming and stealing his underwear. So he did some research and found out that mice are afraid of cats. So he begged one cat to protect his underwear. So now he had a cat to protect his underwear, and he felt peaceful. But then the cat was not peaceful because it kept on saying, meow, meow. So he got an interpreter who knew cat language and found out that the cat needed milk. But the only available milk was a cow. So he begged a cow. But he had no idea how to milk a cow. But he found out there was one lady who knew how to milk cows, so he married her. So now he had a wife and a cow and a cat in order to protect his underwear. But his wife wanted some children, so he had to get a house. So now I had 2 children, a house, a wife, a cow, and a cat to protect his underwear. But in order to pay for the house and the children, he had to get another job. So he had to get another car, so he was working at night. So now he had 2 jobs, and a car, and a house, and a wife, and 2 children, and a cow, and a cat to protect his underwear. But he was meditating and he realized that soon it would be too expensive to maintain his underwear. He couldn't afford it anymore. So he donated his underwear to someone else and walked away. So that's modern society. Making everything so complicated just to get something to eat and being proud of their so-called technological and industrialization. Therefore, manda sumanda matayo manda bhagu bhaudrutaha. No time to hear about Krishna, no time for devotional service, no time to understand things properly. Therefore, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is given the opportunity to chant and hear the holy name. And if someone is a little bit manda, what is that then this age of Kali, that, well, Prayena, what was Prayena? That's not right either. Krishna Varnam Tvisa Krishna, Sango Pangastra Parashadam, Jagnai Santirkana, Prayera, Yanti Hisumedasa. If people have a little bit of intelligence, then they'll appreciate the value of the holy name. And even if they don't have any intelligence, by the mercy of the holy name, by the mercy of the devotees who are distributing the holy name, then they may get a little intelligence by coming under the spiritual energy. Now that depends upon the devotees chanting the holy name in disciple succession. Because this knowledge of Krishna consciousness and the knowledge of how to chant the holy name comes in disciple succession, of which our disciple succession comes from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Although we may not understand perfectly Brahman or Paramatma or Bhagavan, still if we chant the holy name without offense, following the instructions of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his followers in disciple succession, then the result is we'll get enough intelligence to understand the value of devotional service and perform it. And by performing devotional service, we can learn how to do so, to go from the platform of anxiety to the platform of material comfort, to the platform of actually conquering our minds and fixing them upon Krishna without being deviated by mundane conceptions. Then we can actually accept real devotional service and come to the platform of understanding Krishna in truth. And when we understand Krishna by experience, then we'll fall in love with Krishna and be able to meditate upon him in trance without any deviation. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given us this simple process of chanting as our principal sadhana, along with, as Sri Rupa Goswami has given us the process especially of hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, or in this case, Chaitanya Charitamrita, worshiping the deities, serving the devotees, and especially carrying Krishna within our heart, so that when we go out and we chant Hare Krishna, or we chant Hare Krishna in the temple, we can actually influence each other and influence others, put them under the spiritual energy, and therefore spread Krishna consciousness as it's actually supposed to be spread. Krishna consciousness will not be spread by simply only big buildings or only by even a lot of preaching. Krishna consciousness depends upon our placing Krishna within our heart through the process of devotional service. When Vidura came back from pilgrimage, he was greeted by Maharaj Yudhisthira with these words: Bhavan vidas bhagavatas tirtha bhutak swayam vivo tirtha korvanti tirthani swantak stena katabritaha. That saints like yourself are verily places of pilgrimage, because wherever you go, you turn that place into a place of pilgrimage by carrying Krishna within your heart. So ultimately, this chanting, this devotional service is meant so that we can remember Krishna and with feelings of devotion, and therefore actually carry Krishna and the spiritual world within our heart, and that will spread Krishna consciousness. That will purify the atmosphere, that will purify our hearts, that will purify the atmosphere, and therefore bring the spiritual world, as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did when he was in the Jarikaranda forest, and that simply by his chanting, even the animals were dancing and embracing each other. Not simply by some managerial arrangement, which is also necessary, but by making an arrangement in such a way is that our chanting Hare Krishna actually brings the spiritual world to this world, and therefore converts this world into the spiritual world. Turns people's hearts from Maya to Krishna. So thank you, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Maharaj, for the wonderful class. Any questions, boys? So you see that Maharaj, it was so inspiring. Maharaj remembers the entire Bhagavad Gita by heart and so many verses from Bhagavatam and Chaitanya. It's so inspiring to see that Maharaj is so learned in scriptures and so many beautiful examples he gave about explaining that how something cannot come from nothing. And you convince about it. Something cannot come from nothing. So very beautifully Maharaj explained. He has one or two questions. Please come forward, come forward.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. So I had a question that Lord Krishna has 16,108 wives, and he also has Radharani. And although Radharani is also an expansion of Krishna, but still we can see that those 16,000 wives are also expansion of Lord Krishna. And those wives also love Krishna as much as they can. Like they truly love him. And then Radharani also loves Krishna. So then why Radharani is especially important to Krishna? What is the quality of Radharani that makes her especially important?
She loves Krishna more than anyone. As a matter of fact, she loves everyone unlimitedly, more than anyone can love her. Therefore, she's the source of all bhakti, of all love. The gopis, they appreciate Srimati Radharani, but she appreciates them more than they appreciate her. And she wants to engage everyone, including ourselves, in Krishna's service. She has only one business, to make Krishna happy, and she's happy when Krishna's happy. She has no other business. And part of her business to make Krishna happy is to engage all of us in Krishna's service. That will make her happy, and that makes Krishna happy. So there's no one on the same level of selfless love as Srimati Radharani, who feels herself to be simply the servant of the servant of the servant of Krishna. For that reason, even Krishna comes, as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu declares, Gopi Bharata Pada Kamalayora, Dasa Dasa Anudasa. He has no other desire to have the same vision, the same experience, the same feelings as Srimati Radharani, who's the most humble servant of the servants of Krishna. Anything? You had a question too? Can you speak a little slower, please?
So we are learning in our school the material science, like physics and chemistry and all. And then we are also learning about scriptures. So sometimes there's a contradiction between science and scriptures. So to like have our better faith in Krishna consciousness, so should we discard our scientific studies in the academics?
What's that?
Should we discard our scientific studies in the academics to have more faith in Krishna consciousness?
Faith depends on experience. The question is what kind of experience you have by the so-called material science. Real science begins with understanding that we're not the body. Real science means that which is true past, present, future, which is true for everywhere, all time. So it's true for all time that everything in the material world is changing except for the souls within the body. And also time is not changing. Paramatma is not changing. Krishna is not changing. So that's science. To find out in physics that in 1920 they thought that light was a wave. In 1930 they thought it was a particle. In 1950 they thought it was a wavicle. And now they're going to claim it's a popsicle. So that's not science, that's mental speculation. So the question is what real science can be utilized, it says in the Bhagavatam. It can be utilized in Krishna's service, but it should be utilized for real science. Ukramantam sitim vapi bunjana bhagunambita vimudo nanapashanti pashanti jnana chakshusha. The foolish, they cannot understand how the living entity quits his body or what kind of body he enjoys under the spell of the modes of nature. But those whose eyes are trained with knowledge can see all this clearly. We may not see things perfectly, but with our experience we can understand that this is true. We can understand that there is intelligence behind the universe. We can understand that everything must come from a person. But yatanto yoganas chayanam pashanyatma yivatmita pashanyat kritatmano naiva pashantya chetasaha. The endeavoring transcendentalist who is situated in self-realization can see all this clearly, but those whose eyes are not trained, although they may try, cannot see what's actually taking place. So the scientists are also trying to find out the cause of all causes, but because if they're not trained according to real knowledge, they can't actually see what's taking place. All they can do is speculate. After all, they can build a bigger bomb, but that won't help us realize we're eternal. Will not inspire us or help us take shelter, Paramatma, to go back to the spiritual world. As Krishna says, unless science is based upon Krishna consciousness, etara vimukta, asatyam apratishtante, ahora nishram, aparashparam sambhutyam, kimaya kama haitukam, etara vimukta kontya, tamo varas tribhyanara. That's not right. Etara vimukta kontya. Is that right? The verse after Etara vimukta kontya, tamo varas tribhyanara, achrat nirma shriya. No, that's right. 16. Etara vimukta kontya, that's right here. That we have Bhagavad Gita, this is Bhagavad Gita 16. What's that? Etera Vimukta. Acharatyattama Shraya Satoyati Pura. That's not right. Thank you. But what's the one after Asatyama Pratishtamte? Asatyama Pratishtamte. Oh, Tamora Haras Kinuba. Do we have a Bhagavad Gita 16, text number 9? 16:8. 16:8. Bhagavad Gita 16:8. 8. 16:8. Asatyam pratishtamte jagarohara nishram aparashparam sambhutyam kimaya kamahait in 9. No, 16:9. 9. Etera drishtima vashtavya nashtatmano nabudaya pravanyuka karmana shaya jagato hita. Following such conclusions and loss of themselves, the demoniac create horrible, unbeneficial works which are meant to destroy the world. So these are the so-called scientists creating all this technology and industrialization, contaminating the water, contaminating the air, contaminating the food, contaminating people's minds, and they think that this is intelligence, but they've lost intelligence. And they're always heading Prakratim cha, Nivritim cha, Karya Karya Vivavaye, Bandha Moksha Chaya Vedi, Buddhi Sapartha Tamasi. They think that what's to be done is not to be done, and what's not to be done, they think that's to be done, and therefore they're always striving in the wrong direction. So unless science is based upon Krishna consciousness, it's simply leading humanity in the wrong direction towards its destruction. Therefore, real science we give credit to. Science can be utilized to discover Brahman, Paramatma, Bhagavan. Otherwise, it's simply demoniac speculation. Etar dristim avashtabhya ashtatmano nabudaya pravanyava karmana shaya jagatohi. So it's abudaya. It's not real intelligence. It's the destruction of intelligence.
So, Maharaj, I just also want to add one comment, Maharaj. So, Maharaj, beautifully explained. Do you understand the answer? Beautifully explained that how, from this verse of that Krishna is saying that how scientists are destroying the planet, they're doing such horrible things to the world. And also another quote that, but there are some scientists like this Lord Kelvin. Have you heard of Kelvin? Physics of Kelvin, the unit of temperature, he says, what does he say? If you study science deep enough and long enough, it will force you to believe in God. So the true scientist will always believe in God. Newton, Kelvin, and Avilo Pushkar himself is a scientist, directed 1920, who is our director also. He's written a nice book. In that book you have not read, there's been so many examples like that. Today Maharaj gave so many wonderful examples. That true science means you see God everywhere. That is real science. The atheistic scientists, they are demoniac and they want to hide God, to cheat the world, and they want to say that there is no God. And they want to exploit everything. Right? So it depends. You want to be a true scientist or a cheater scientist.
Thank you. Hare Krishna, Gurandhara, Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Kira. Oh, yeah, one more question. We have one. Well, Krishna never told us to come to the material world. He told us not to come to the material world. And he's still doing it. But because we have free will, therefore we don't listen to him. Because we have free, love means free will. You can't force someone to love you. A father who's a policeman can't go to his son with a gun to his head and say, love me or I'll kill you. Love is voluntary. So if we want to imitate Krishna, we want to become Krishna, we want to try to so-called enjoy like Krishna, then Krishna will give us that opportunity. If we don't want to love him, then we'll have to love something else. So because we've rejected loving Krishna, therefore he's given us this material world to love.
Maharaj, she's the principal. She's the principal of the school. She really comments on this to close.
Thank you, Maharaj, for the wonderful class. And right now, I hope you got the answer. And most of you use your free will and not listen to your teachers. And then you have to come and you will suffer. Okay? Krishna never said. He always gave us the chance. But he also gives us the chance to use the free will. And depends how you use your free will. You discipline that or you just want to enjoy life. Okay? Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna, Gurandhara Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.